Hello everybody, welcome back. For a patch run through, we have 7.35D on the menu, and first you'll be greeted with this little gameplay patch plus matchmaking features screen, meaning that yes, there is a patch, but there's also some new features. Really quickly, we now have a bans tab. Instead of doing bans at the start of your game, you automatically ban these 4 heroes, and it will randomly pick one of these 4 to ban for you. So if you have Tinker in here, Arkward and Pudge, I don't know why you put Pudge in there, and like PL or whatever, it will pick one of these 4 in your match, and it will ban that for you. So it's kind of like a 25% ban now, which might feel bad if you are like me and you always ban Tinker. But at least you can never forget to ban. That does mean that if you start your game, be right there. Be ready to play the game, because you have to pick right away instead of banning first. You don't have that little buffer zone anymore. But this is a cool feature. Interesting to see how it works out. If you leave one empty, it can still pick the empty one. So you have to fill them up, doesn't matter. It's still 25%. Even if you only put Tinker in there, it's still 25% chance, and a 75% chance that you don't ban anything because you didn't put a hero there. Other than that, they also have this like queue again thing for Dota Plus users, where you can see how the quality of the matches that you are going into. I'm not sure if it's for parties or also for solo queuing, but this is an experiment that they're doing with the Dota Labs, which has been a pretty cool feature. So if you have Dota Plus, you can look at this as well. Like, oh, cool, I can kind of like say no to a match because I see that the skill balance is trash, or the behavior score of every player is crazy bad, you know, something like that. So I think that's cool, but we are here mostly for the patch 7.35D. I think it's pretty significant. Crownfall will be mid-April instead of March, so we'll have to wait a couple more weeks for the big patch with, I don't know, Battle Pass, Arcane, or Arcanas, maybe cheeky Cavern Crawl, you know. We'll see what comes, and the new hero, what's he called? Ringleader? Something like that. We'll see, a couple more weeks, but for now we have 7.35D, and first off, the items. Blacking Bar gets a cooldown nerf, so it's going to be on cooldown a little longer. Now, note that in 7.35C, the magic resistance was heavily buffed from 50 to 60. It's a 20% increase from 50 going to 60, and it's noticeable. Like, in the offlane, I can see that Blink BKB is feeling pretty juicy. You're like, oh, I'm so unkillable with BKB. It feels really good to buy a BKB right now. Again, as usual. It's, unless we're playing DK, of course, you don't really want to buy it. But I think BKB is a very good item right now. And Divine, they changed it a bit, where now it just gives 100 damage and you have to toggle it between magic form and attack form. So you can either get 250 damage on top of the 100, or you get the 25 spell damage. So now you can't have best of both worlds, basically. So if you're a mixed user of both spell amp and damage, like Lina, for example, you don't double benefit anymore. You have to toggle to whatever you prefer, more right-click damage or spell amp. I think that's cool-ish. I like the old one as well, but definitely felt a little broken on the heroes that had mixed damage. Now we have Scotty buffs, actually. I'm pretty surprised by that, but we have a health bonus and a mana bonus on Scotty. Just 30 flat on both of those, so Medusa's happy, Terrablade's happy, yeah, any Scotty buyer's happy, of course, but it felt a little hard to build into because of the ultimate orb being so gosh darn expensive, and the other point booster and the recipe you don't really want to buy first, so you go into the ultimate orb, which, let's check how expensive that is. Ultimate orb, 2,800 gold. Like, this is such a hard item to buy as one of your first items because of that. It's it's pretty significantly difficult to get that Scotty, because all the in-between items are kind of shit, except for the ultimate orb, but the ultimate orb is basically the cost of an entire item. Now we Helm of the Dominator. You just get the gold from the creep you dominate. It's kind of a whatever thing. It's nice for the offlaners or whatever that buy the Helm of Dom, because you get a little bit of gold. It's a little buff. It just makes sense. It feels like a notice me senpai type of buff. Like, yo, try and play your Beastmaster again. It might be good now. Try that Lycan again, you know? Like, we give you 50 gold or whatever it is every time you get a new creep. So, I mean, it's nice. Probably won't do too much, but these little buffs do add up at some point. Then we have a pretty big change here for Javelin, Maelstrom, Gleipnir, Mjolnir. The proc chance is going down from 30 to 25. That is 17% decrease. So 17% less procs on Javelin, on Maelstrom, etc. So that is pretty big. This item was very, very present in the entirety of the metagame, I feel like, because you could just get procs and you had instant mixed damage. Maelstrom Lightning gives you magic damage, and you are hitting with your right-click damage. So it was a very nice item for a lot of heroes. People usually think about Faceless Void, for example. It's pretty hard to itemize defensively against him because he right-clicks you to death, procs a lot of Maelstrom on you, and he also stuns you. And same with Lena, for example, where she just right-clicks you, but also throws spells and also gets Gleipnir procs. It's kind of difficult, but now there's just less lightning procs, so I think that's pretty significant. Some cores might actually start looking again at other farming items, because Maelstrom is kind of the best right now. Like, some heroes still prefer Battle Fury, but some might be looking at Radiance again that used to not get Radiance. But I'm not a 1, so I don't know. I barely ever get to build a Maelstrom on my offlane heroes. Maybe when I play like Hoodwink 3 or something. Then you get it. You know, I think this is a pretty big nerf, and we're going to see some shakeups on some of the builds, or just less favor towards those Maelstrom-reliant heroes. Stick gets a nerf. That's pretty big, actually. The cooldown on your stick usage, so you probably... It's harder to get a second stick boost in a fight. So usually if you go into a fight, you have like 8 stick charges, especially as an offlaner. You jump in, you take like 80% of your health in damage you stick, and then you get away just barely, and then you're in the fight still, so you get a couple stick charges from all the spells going off, and then you're back to like 8 charges again, and then after 13 seconds, you heal up again, and then you're ready to reinitiate. Now that's a little different. You'll get rewarded a little bit more for getting the magic wand. But it's basically just a stick nerf, which is pretty big because everybody buys this item. It's crazy good. It's 20 charges of 15 health, which makes it like 300 health stored in this one item, which is pretty significant. It can save your life a lot. It can make opponents overcommit. You've done that. I've done that. You see that juicy target underneath the tower, super low HP. You run at him. He stuns you. You don't care. You keep going. You start hitting him. He sticks up. You're like, shit, I don't have any more spells. And then, like, you're stuck behind a creep, and then the tower's starting to really do some damage. And then suddenly you die to a support underneath this tower because, you know, you really wanted that kill. Moving on, Manta style. I think this is gigabig. Manta style image cooldown increased from 30 to 34. So that's slightly more than a 10% nerf on the cooldown here, which I think Manta style is one of those items that is just crazy good because the Yashaka buffed, but also illusions are just really good in this game because they scale with your hero that right click. So every core loves this item. And we saw it being very egregious with Dragon Knight, which I have been spamming to death, and I've been loving it a lot. And we'll talk more about Dragon Knight when we get to the hero portion. But I think Manta style is just one of those items where you really needed it to breach high ground sometimes, where if you have Manta on a couple heroes, like 1 or 2, maybe 3, you can just send in illusions to hit that tier 3. And it won't regen fast enough. If you can clear the way from long range, send in some illusions, like think about a Medusa illusion, you're not clearing that. If you don't have answers to illusions, Dragonite, for example, that tower is gonna die slowly but surely. You're gonna chip it away. And with this nerf, it's going to last even longer, or it's going to take even longer. And I think also a pretty special or important bit here is that the heroes that rely on farming with Manta, such as Luna, who can really rush a Manta to just shove out waves, it's a slight nerf to those as well. You need to be very cognizant of where do I use my Manta so that I get maximum effectiveness. But I think it's a big nerf, and will steer the game into a different direction because illusions are just very strong, and now you just get less of them on the map. Null Talisman buff, I don't think anybody's picking this up right now. But it does give you 1 mana regen for 500, and it gives you a bunch of stats, so yeah, maybe I think 1 on an intelligence hero could be nice. Oblivion Staff gets nerfed, so that's part of the Mage Slayer and of the Orchid. Yeah, you just make an Oblivion Staff. It's good. It gives you a lot of mana. I've making a lot of Mage Slayers, even after the nerfs, because it just gives you that much mana, and it gives you a lot of magic resist. Especially because this builds into the Mage Slayer. The thing about Mage Slayer, which didn't get nerfed further, by the way, you still get the full mana, is that it's the only magic resist item that is like farming slash aggressively oriented, so not tanking oriented. It's more about the fighting. And it gives you mana, etc. Where all the other magic resist items just like its Pipe or its Eternal Shroud, which is more about just tanking damage and healing. And Mage Slayer is a lot about attacking and sustaining the mana pool instead of the health pool, which makes it such an enticing item. It fills a niche that no other item can fill right now. But we also have the Orchid that does get pretty nerfed here. Slight mana regen nerf and intelligence bonus nerf, and the soul mana burn cost. I think this is actually pretty big, because this is what, a 25% increase in cost, meaning that it's pretty difficult to use for heroes that have low mana pools already. So, for example, Dragonite again, it is pretty difficult to use Orchid and all of your spells without also now having a Soul Ring or something, which you could potentially skip if you were tread swapping well. You could skip your Soul Ring and just have either your Orchid or your Mage Slayer and just continue right on to that Montagonums. So I think this is pretty nice. Bloodthorn, of course, a crazy item right now on some heroes such as Broodmother, Visage, or Visage, or, you know, anything that gets a lot of hits in, but hasn't been OP, I guess, but it definitely feels bad if you don't have a Dispel. If you start yelling at your team, "Where's the Lotus? I need the Lotus, I'm getting Bloodthorned," it's probably your fault. You needed a Yules or a Beekeepy or a Manta. Or a Greaves, I guess, if that item still exists. Parasma gets nerfed a little bit. Parasma is crazy. Holy shit, Storm, Puck, even Queen of Pain. I think Parasma is a crazy item, like the minus 20% magic resist on everybody. I like buying this on like Dazzle Core. If you have Aghanim's and then Parasma, you just lower everybody's magic resist by 20% by putting the heal on them. I think it's pretty crazy, especially on the Puck, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, because she spreads it onto everybody, and they just take more magic damage. It's a pretty crazy item. And, I mean, 8 armor, not to be scuffed at. The Parasma is still good. It's still amazing. Revenants Brooch can no longer apply critical strikes. So, PA spammers, screw you. You can't one-shot my whole team anymore. It's probably still a good item to do magic damage if you really need it versus TB or Slark or whatever other hero. But no crits is probably together with the Divine Rapier nerf. I think the Revenants Brooch plus Rapier builds on like Mars, for example, might not be as good anymore, especially because you risk losing the Rapier. But I still think it's okay in some instances, but it's definitely not a every game build anymore, which it definitely was with PA, for example, and it was not fun. For my pubs, at least. Shadowblade and Shadow Edge get a little buff, but this item is still awkward as all hell. Let's check, how do you make that even? You make it out of... yeah, a Demon Edge. So it does give you a little bit of damage, but that's all it does. It gives you damage. And when you hit somebody out of invisibility, it gives you extra damage, but it doesn't give you anything else. Yeah, it gives you the break, which you'll buy this if you need the break. But Shadowblade itself just isn't that good, so you're just spending 5.5k gold on a break that only gives you damage and attack speed, which not a lot of heroes like picking this up right now. Like, as an offlaner, I'm kind of okay picking it up as a utility option, but I noticed that I have to discuss with my team, like, who's getting the Silver Edge this game? Does the mid want to get it? Hell no. The position 1, I can get it, but then I won't have a BKB, which is like, okay, but that never goes well. So it's been a struggle, and this is a small buff. I don't think it will change that much. I'm expecting more buffs in the future to make this item like a bit more enticing. Royal Jelly buff, that's kind of cool. I felt like this item was already a bit too good, because you could just keep it in the backpack and use it to regen up later, even if you already had a tier 2 or tier 3 item. But now it just restores faster. It doesn't take 10 seconds, it takes 8 seconds. Now 10 times 2 is 20, but 8 times 2.5 is also math. I think it's also 20. So basically, you get the same health, and I expect it's also the same mana. So it's just a straight up buff to an item that's already good. So if you know that you're mostly farming, I think it's really good. Because this is not like the best go fight right now type of item, but it's definitely really good. And especially if you're support, for example, you can give it to a core. That's also really good if you happen to not need it, right? We all know that you walk around, you still have that one clarity ready, but you already, I don't know, you had your arcane boots a little earlier than you expected, and you still have this one clarity, and you see that one core walking by, and he's like 30% mana. You're like, I have a clarity for you. You can do that with Royal Jelly as well, and it'll give it to them a bit faster. So it's a nice neutral item. I'm surprised they buffed it. Growthbow nerf, I think this is a pretty big nerf. We used to keep it a lot on the heroes that loved Growthbow because it gave 100 range, which is even more than the Quiver gives, I think. Yeah, Quiver gives 75. So this one gave 100, so if it's purely about the sustained range, you wanted growth, plus this one lowers magic resistance, which is pretty significant. Now, this one is basically worse than Quiver, unless you really, really value the magic resist lowering, which is possible. But on very specific heroes, I feel like. If you are kind of like a puck and you can hit a lot of units with it to lower their magic resist, I think it's good. I don't know what the duration is on it. It doesn't say. Hello? What is the duration on the growth bow? Hello? Okay, I don't know the duration. Cool. Light Collector got Giga nerfed 10% to 5. I feel like I picked this up every time I saw it and I didn't see anything else that I really, really wanted, because 10% movement speed just feels really good. Now I think you probably won't pick it up ever. This is the reduction. Like, if you're near trees, you don't get anything, so it's really a walk down lanes type of item, but now you do it less well. I don't know. I think it's still good if you're like against a Monkey King and you really want to break those trees, or you're against a Hoodwink and you see like the tree pop up next to you. You could just instantly click your neutral item and it will clear that tree. So I think it's good against those heroes specifically, because the 5% movement speed is still very nice. Some heroes will still take it for that. Doubloon got buffed, but it's still a weird item. I don't know which heroes want this item. Barely any really want this item, I feel like. Like, what hero wants to destroy their mana pool to get more health? Or what hero wants to destroy their health pool to get more mana? Very few, I feel like. And you don't really do it reactively. You do it like... because it's a 5-second... I don't know. I haven't... somebody's gonna figure it out, but I don't know any hero that really likes it. I've picked it up like once or twice for the health and mana regen because I knew I was gonna be farming mostly. And then we go to the neutral creep changes. We see a bonus experience from stacking neutral camps has been decreased from 30 to 25, so that's again like a 70% nerf. Together with some gold bounty decrease on neutrals, so there's just less XP and gold in neutral camps right now, which I think is good. I love it more when people have to go to creep waves, because that is where the action happens. That is where people wait for you to go to the creep wave so that they can gank you. Or that's where you have to show, so then they can kind of like figure out where you are going next. So I like it when people have to show on creep waves. But I don't know if this is the way to go, because this is basically the bonus experience I feel like was mostly good for the supports that were doing the stacking. So how are you going to get XP as a support? I feel like this makes the experience rune even more important. If you don't get the 7-minute experience rune, and God forbid you don't get the 14 either, I think your supports are severely underleveled, and it's very hard to give them that experience. Especially if you have some greedy cores that just need to hog a lot of space. You can't really give a lane to your support. Then they'll just come to you, right? And you'll just sit in your lane like, I need my 6, I need my 12, I need my 10. And then, I don't know, that kind of feels weird, but it does also mean that if they participate more in kills, they will get that experience that they need. So it does kind of, in that sense, tell supports that they need to be active. You're not being rewarded for being AFK in the jungle, which in a general sense I think is nice. But I don't know. I think it's already kind of weird that you get bonus experience for stacking. Why not just get the full amount? I think you even get reduced gold. So, but I'm not 100% sure if the bonus experience is also for cores, because I expect it to only be for the support or the one that's stacked, which I think is great. And that's it. Hero changes are up next, and we have a few. It's not too many, like they're all pretty short, nothing huge, but some heroes are definitely different. So we have Ancient Apparition, just a buff on Cold Feet. Nothing important there. Arc Warden, small nerfs. F this hero, nobody likes you. Bad Rider gets a Flame Break nerf, I would say, where in the early levels, you do slightly less damage on the Flame Break. And also, I think very importantly, there's less ticks, because the burn duration is now only 2 at the first level. So combined with Sticky Napalm, it's even worse. So this Flame Break nerf is pretty big on Bad Rider, I feel like. Lasso, also nerfed. Beastmaster gets a small Inner Beast buff. You don't get this aura after your other 2 spells anyways, but this does make your kind of Death Ball down the lane a little bit stronger. I don't think this is enough for the Zoo meta to return, but it's definitely... this is the second, like, tiny thing that Beastmaster got. Helmdom gives me a little bit more gold. My Inner Beast is slightly better. It's gonna add up at some point. Bloodseeker gets 2 base agi, that is pretty big, and self-healing is now classified as lifesteal, which means it's amplified by lifesteal amplification. That basically means Sanj does something for it. Now, Thirst was already neutered by Skadi and Shivas, because they also neuter healing. So if you look at Shivas and Skadi, so Shiva here and Skadi is easier to read, I feel like. The last line, additionally, it reduces all healing, lifesteal, and regen by 40%. So Bloodseeker used to get 40% less from his Thirst, but he could not amp it with getting Halbert or getting a Sanjin Kaya or a Sanjin Yasha, which, I mean, he would like a Sanj item, I think. So this is basically Bloodseeker buffs. I've been playing him in the off lane a little bit. Feels pretty good to play him in the off lane right now. Although people are usually pretty angry if you do so. But definitely if you know that you're going to have a Medusa, for example, it's so good. Because his Q on Medusa is crazy. Medusa doesn't care about the damage, and she loves the attack speed. And even the spell amp is pretty nice. I also like it on Zeus, especially putting it on one of his illusions so that his like lightning goes crazy. It's pretty good. I think Bloodseeker offlane still, I made a guide like half a year ago at least, but I think it's good. I think it's pretty good. Centaur got some small nerfs. You missed 20 damage in total on your hoof stomp for the entirety of the game. That's going to add up. And the level 10 talent that most people did take has been nerfed as well. So he's going to feel less tanky and he's going to deal a little bit less damage. I still think he's pretty good. His lane is still going to be solid, but his 4 needs to add in the difference a little bit. You know, like you can't run it with every useless 4 anymore. Your 4 needs to add a little bit to the lane, and then you're still a kill combo. So I think Centaur Warrior are still good. Now, Chaos Knight, this is one of the heroes I like talking about. So that's what we're going to do. Chaos Knight gets a Reality Rift buff. It already got a buff, but this one is on the cast range. So it gives a whole 50 on all of the cast range, which that's not the biggest problem for Reality Rift. The biggest problem is that you do it and then you lose vision and then it just stops casting it, even though you see the animation kind of like blue balling you the whole time. So I feel like Chaos Knight needs to be played with a hero that gives you vision. And it gives you Chaos Strike increase onto creeps a little bit. Now, let's put this into context. Let's go, and we go to the changes of Chaos Knight. And what they did is in... I think it was in 7.34 or something. Yeah, they gave him creep damage multiplier up. They gave him more creep damage. And the lifesteal penalty was only 40. Now, then they nerfed that to 70, and his base damage got shredded. So he feels pretty bad in lane if you only get one Chaos Strike. So that feels really bad as an offlane CK, because you basically have to go 1-1-3. You have to get 3 points in Chaos Strike to sustain the lane, which is kind of annoying. You kind of want to only have 1 or 2 points in there so you can have your other spells. Take Dragonite, for example. You can get by with only 1 Dragon Blood. Only 1 point in his passive. So you can go like 3-1-1 or 2-1-2 if it's really rough lane. You can really prioritize getting the Fire Breath on Dragonite, which feels really good. Because then you can really shove out the lane, deal a lot of nuke damage to the opposing core, and they'll be very sad because they just took a lot of damage and their damage is reduced by 30%, so they can't properly right-click the creeps under tower. Like, compared to CK that needs to get 3 points in Chaos Strike and it still feels bad. You still feel like you can't sustain if you have 3 points in Chaos Strike. So now you do a little bit more damage to creeps, which means you'll farm faster. So I think this is pretty good as a 1. Now I like the Reality Rift cast range. So because we were already buying Aether lenses for Reality Rift on the offlane, kind of like, ooh, that's a cool catch. You don't have to get the blink because you have a high movement speed hero in CK, and then with the Aether lens you can just yoink people in. Now before this they increased the Reality pull distance. That basically means that it used to pull you both to the middle, basically, of Reality Rift. And then if you get his level 10 talent, which is Reality Rift pull distance, it pulls the hero to the middle and then a little bit further. And you go towards the hero that you pulled in. So basically, it becomes more of a hook. So if you have Reality Rift maxed and you have the pull distance talent, you basically hook somebody in instead of meeting each other in the middle. That's kind of the difference. So the higher the pull distance, the closer they come to your original position. So Reality Rift earlier on used to put you out of position because of that. So you are on your high ground and you pull somebody in. That basically means you are putting yourself off the high ground if you're defending high ground, which was very bad because then suddenly you get nuked by everybody. So Chaos Knight not having to put himself in danger as much with this nice buff is kind of nice, but it also means that without his level 10 talent, which you love taking the other one because it gives you more lifesteal, actually making you sustain, it put him out of position a lot, which feels bad, especially if you're the carry, meaning you just need your BKB or something. And now you get a little buffs. I am probably going to try him a couple games in the offlane again, but I mean, I feel like you're probably still going to need multiple points in Chaos Strike, meaning that your aggressive potential in the lane is very low unless you have a very good 4, meaning that I think Chaos Knight 1 is probably okay with this in the games where he's good. But I think offlane, especially with the Manta nerf as well, like I thought his niche was getting Manta Ags against like Silencer and Tree, and I love picking him into Silencer because if I can find Silencer with my BKB, I kill him, and if he uses his global, I just press my ultimate, and then my whole team gets dispelled and his global was useless. So even if I'm not like in position to find the Silencer, then I can still provide that value from the offlane. So that's my ramble on CK. Let's see if we can get back to the changes. There we go. I still think CK is not great, but this is a pretty big buff, I feel like. Chen gets nerfed into the ground. It was 90+% big and banned in pro games, mostly banned because the death ball was just unkillable and unstoppable. Now he gets way less armor on his Defined Favor, and Penitence also got nerfed in the meanwhile. I don't play Chen. I've not seen it in pubs at all, so... And I haven't seen it in pro games at all because it's always banned. I don't know if this is enough. We'll see. If you wanted to play Chen, you could probably still try it, but you might be just a little bit too late. But it still seems okay. Clockwork, small buff. That's nice. Crystal Maiden, pretty big nerf. The Crystal Clone was absolutely crazy together with the low Frostbite cooldown already. And this didn't cost any mana, so you would just spam this Crystal Clone every 10 seconds. And you would also have this Frostbite on 6-second cooldown. So you would just be frostbiting people permanently. It's pretty crazy. But I still think she's a top tier support. Because Crystal Maiden doesn't really have mana problems, I feel like. Dark Willow gets a little Bedlam buff. I am so sad when I see Dark Willow 4 right now. Somebody picks Dark Willow, and I'm like, well, yeah, I was gonna pick a melee hero in the offlane, but you don't offer anything. It feels so useless to have a Dark Willow. She just doesn't really do anything. She puts down the brambles, and they like get stuck in it, and you hit somebody 2 times, and then they run away. And like even if you stun them afterwards, like she has to still like stay in her, what's it called? Her Shadow Realm stuff for like 10 ages before it does any damage at all. So she just doesn't add that much to the lane, and the Bedlam takes a bit too much coordination. And they don't trust you with it enough, so usually they don't even put it on you. Like, they put it on you after you blink, which is like, say you're a Centaur, you have blink, you blink in, you stun, and then they put it on you. That's like a full second of Bedlam damage that you could have had if you just trusted me and put it on me before I blink. So I think you have a little bit more wiggle room for that now, in pubs especially. Still think it's a shit hero. And I'm sad when I see it in my pubs, but maybe Dark Willow players can prove me wrong. Disruptor, slow duration, oh, okay, small buff, doesn't matter, I think. Dragon Knight, big talking point here. So, Elder Dragon form has been further nerfed. It's a crazy hero. I felt like I was playing Broodlord Infestor from StarCraft 2 with this hero. I would press my ultimate, which is with Aghanims, and then I press Manta, and I get 2 big black dragons, and they slow the hell out of you, fungal, and they are free, broodlings, and they just keep hitting you over and over and over again, and they have super long range, and they do splash for some reason, fungal. So basically, they push a lane by themselves, and worse, they can take towers by themselves because they apply this dragon on-hit effect. Now, they don't do it anymore after they've reverted back to melee form, which I didn't even notice that they did that, which is pretty crazy. But your illusions are pretty good anyways, but if they're in a dragon form, they will still do all of the on-hit effects, which means that if you were pushing towards a tier 3, you would A-move your dragons, and then you would take one of them, and they have free pathing, so you would move them into the trees, like you know, one of the side towers, imagine one of them, doesn't matter which one, and then you would put them in the tree, and then you would click on the tower, meaning that it would just continuously click the tower and do damage, and the corrosive breath would apply fully. So it would just do corrosive breath damage, and it would slow the tower, I think. So your wave would die slowly? I don't know if that's true, but I know it does the damage. And so this nerf, 5 seconds to 3, doesn't effing matter for that scenario. It only matters for the laning stage, where you would get your level 6 on Dragonite, and you would pop your dragon, and you would just walk into tower range, hit it once, run away, take like 2 or 3 tower shots, which you don't care about because you're fucking Dragonite, and then it would tick down the tower slowly but surely with that 5-second corrosive breath debuff. So now it will do that less, so you have to do it more in the laning stage, basically meaning that you are a less reliable tower taker in the laning stage. So supports, please help your Dragonite take the tower a bit more, because you'll still take it really fast, but he can't like kind of snipe it out. He needs to really be allowed to hit the tower a little bit. He doesn't want to walk into tower range, get hit by the support, hit the tower once, walk out, take like half his damage, because it isn't, or health and damage, because it isn't quite worth the trade anymore. Trading your health for tower health on Dragonite just became less worth by quite a big margin, like a 40% reduction in damage on that tower. So I think in that late game scenario, doesn't matter. You still just click one of the illusions on the tower. It's going to do a lot of corrosive breath damage anyways. And especially if you build the Octarine core, which I definitely did every game, and it feels so good to have like 90% uptime on your dragon plus Manta. You're still going to take towers anyways, you don't care. But in the early levels, especially like the later laning stages, as soon as Dragonite hits 6, it's slightly harder to kick people out of lane with this. So that's the big thing. And then we have the health nerf. So it used to be 400, now 300. That's a pretty big one. But you also had the 0.4 Dragon Tail stun, which is also really good. It's a pretty hard trade-off, I feel like. You would get a lot of health if you feel like you have enough stuns on the team, and you are not the main stunner guy. But if you are against like a puck and you only have like 1 additional stun on the team, you would always take the dragon stun. But otherwise the health is really nice for the illusions, for example, but also for yourself because you have a lot of armor. You usually get the Mage Slayer. I feel like you should, and that gives you a lot of magic resist as well, so then you're super tanky, so that health is super efficient health on Dragonite, making you very good at just face tanking a lot of stuff. So these are nerfs, but I feel like you can still play Dragonite the same way. I'm gonna keep playing him that way, but I might stop forcing him in. I literally forced him into every game I could pick him, I would pick Dragonite. And I had like a 60% win rate at least. And that is with playing against Lifestealer and Ursa in my lane almost every game, which are terrible lanes. It's not fun at all. And like one time I got like a Monkey King, but he would keep jumping on a tree and I would quell him and he would die. Drow Ranger gets some buffs. This hero feels dog shit. It feels so bad as she can get 3 items and it still feels like she does no damage, and then they jump on her and they kill her and then we're all sad. So I feel like, and even with the DK, I jump in front of her, I like stun the guy, I tank for her, and like I corrosive breath the guy that is going on her, or like a dual breath, what is it, dragon breath, lower his right click damage, like everything to enable this drow and she just feels like she does fuck all damage. It doesn't feel good at all. So I think please don't pick her if you're on my team, but definitely pick her if you're against me. Earth Spirit gets a double damage on Rolling Boulder, which seems good. I don't know. He's not played mid anymore, so he's probably not super good. But if I see him 4, I'm not sad. If I see him as my 4, I'm not sad. So he's an okay hero. Ember Spirit actually gets a small buff here. I guess since Mage Slayer has been nerfed. I mean, you still build it on him. I feel like Ember Spirit's still good. His Searing Chains are crazy. Searing Chains do so much damage. Yeah, I think it's just really good. Faceless Void, Time Dilation nerf. Thank you, Gaben. That spell feels really good. Level 1 in lane. I hate it. So, more Faceless Void nerfs. I feel like the hero is in a pretty good state. Like, Chronosphere is always going to be good. And the Maelstrom nerf on top of this, like, yikes. If you're a Faceless Void main, that feels kind of bad. You have to kind of, like, center yourself. Like, be calm. It's gonna be okay. It's still a good hero. In the late game, I'm gonna own them. But definitely feels a little worse early on. Even though I kind of liked it when... I like it when cores are strong early so that they can participate. But if they are too strong, then it's more than participating. Then it's just crushing the game. So, I don't know. This feels okay. Hoodwink, small nerf to the Bushwhack cooldown talent. I mean, she's still a good 4. She's really good, but she's a little bit less happy with the Maelstrom nerfs, I feel like. Together with the Mage Slayer nerfs, which she used to... She liked the Mage Slayer a lot with the Acorn Shot, which is why I played it offlane 3 as well. Because Bushwhack is a pretty cool stun. And then if you can just apply Mage Slayer to everybody with your Acorn Shot, and you get a break, like, and you're very hard to catch with Bushwhack, it's pretty cool hero. But she's definitely good 4. Kunkka gets a nerf on the Torrent damage and knockup. That's a 70% reduction again. So Kunkka feels really good. Like, I've been playing my boy in the offlane for like 2 years now at least. And he's only been going up, even though all of his stats have been going down. Like, Aghanims has been nerfed so many times. His talents have been getting worse over time. But he's still great. He's still good. Even though his right-clicking is just... You don't do it. It's just not that good. But everything Torrent-related is great. And I still think this is... You don't care. You still get Aghanims. You still get Tidal Wave. You still get Bloodstone. You still get Octarine or Refresher or Shivas or all of those. In any order. Leshrac gets a small level 20 talent nerf. Okay, I think Leshrac is really good right now. And the 20 talent, I didn't feel like that mattered. I see that it has a 20 damage reduction during Pulse Nova on level 20, which is something I would rather take, maybe? But nah, probably the damage, because you have Bloodstone almost always. I guess the 20 damage reduction is for when you don't have Bloodstone, or for when you are 100% guaranteed to take a Mage Slayer to the face, so the damage doesn't do as much. I don't know, I think this is not super significant. Leshrac is a good hero. We see it 2, we see it 1, we see it 5. I've seen it 4, which is decent. I like the Yule's Rush. I don't play it 3 personally, although I think it's good. I don't know, it just kind of feels like an awkward hero. And I haven't put in the time. I might put in the time now that other heroes are less interesting. Especially because Yule's is pretty good right now. Lich gets a small buff with the Frost Shield. It's better later. It's worse at level 1, but already better at level 2. So I feel like that's a buff. And the Chain Frost, you can put it on your Ice Spire. That's kind of funny. So Lich, small buffs, but whatever. Lifestealer, this is pretty significant. It's a nerf on Rage, it's a nerf on Infest Aghanims, and it's a nerf on Open Wounds. We've been seeing a lot of Lifestealer right now. He is very happy in the current meta, or at least from 7.35C. So, I don't know if we're going to see him less. Because we are still seeing a lot of melee strength offlaners. Yeah, might just start picking a little bit more Razor or something to really shut this guy down, but it's it's nerfs, right? It's nerfs. I think it's still good, but he's probably not happy. Mars gets a small nerf on the arena, but only like 10 seconds, so it's not too big. A rebuke cooldown reduction, that's probably annoying. But nothing too major. Like, little tap on the wrist, like, Mars, chill. Medusa gets a nerf to the face. I don't know why, but she gets nerfed a little bit. Mirana, movement speed nerf. That's pretty big, I feel like, because she's been seeing a lot of play in the 5 position, a little bit in the 4, and a little teensy bit in the 2 position. I like her 5 because I don't like it when I see her as my 4. I feel like my Mirana just doesn't do as much. Even if I set up her arrow, she misses it, and then I'm sad. And that's kind of what it feels like if you're Mirana 4. It's kind of like, ooh, now my cores have to get some setup for her. Like, you want to have at least one stun, or an OD with Astral, or like a Shadow Demon 5 with Disruption. Something to help you get that arrow value. Because otherwise she's just her Moonlight Shadow, which I feel like is more value from a 5. Naga Siren gets a Riptide damage decrease on top of the Manta nerf, so Naga Siren stonks down. I think this hero is kind of dumb, so glad she gets nerfed. Of course, it's an illusion hero. Necrophos. Oh, I didn't actively read this. So these are buffs, buffs, and buffs. So just talent buffs for Necrophos. I feel like this hero is kind of meh still. But this is definitely not bad, right? Definitely not bad. Heart is just not that good. Aghanim's is not that good. So it's kind of like, what do I go? You kind of want to go Radiance and maybe a Shiva's or some stuff. Turtle Shroud. I don't know. I don't know what the build is on Necro. I would still just go for the Boots of Travel, Shard, Aghanim's, Heart, Sunj Kaya, or like Halbert or something. Which is, that sounds kind of gimmicky, right? You just walk around and you hope they can't kill you. Pangolier, this one is big. Strike count from Swashbuckle to 4 to 3. From 4 to 3. So that means less procs on everything. So less Maelstrom procs, less Diffusal procs, less bashing procs. So Pango in the gutter right now. I think that is very bad for him. This, like, Diffusal is just worse on him. Basher's worse. Maelstrom is worse. This feels bad. Even the armor reduction builds is worse because you have one less hit. It's just, wow, it's a big Pango nerf. He does get a little bit more damage in the later levels, so 3 times 120 is 360, where it used to be, let's see, 170, 340, so it's like 20 damage more. But it doesn't feel good. This is going to change Pangolier quite a bit, I feel like. One whole less strike. It's just going to make Diffusal less good, Basher less good, Maelstrom less... Just everything less good that procs on his Swashbuckle. So his ultimate is still good, but... Oof. 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 Primal Beast gets small nerfs on Aghanim Scepter and Onslaught. Probably still a good hero. Onslaught's still good at level 4, just slightly less good early on, because I think you keep this at level 1 for quite a bit. Puck. Now her Shard got nerfed, so less surge range for people to hit. So your phase shift hits less people in general, basically a radius of 200. That is pretty big, I feel like. But you can still hit a lot of people. And Dream Coil nerf, I don't think that's that much of a big deal. It's still good. And Aghanim Scepter plus Parasma plus Maelstrom is still good. Although they did nerf the proc chance now, so Aghanim's Maelstrom is not as good anymore on Puck, plus the phase shift. That is pretty big. Like, I had her in my...
I can take care of myself.
These are the heroes that I want to try and play. So Puck, I had her as my ranged hero. And in the offlane, and I thought it was okay. Like, Dream Coil is cool. And she can be super hard to catch, especially if you just commit to getting a Yules and a Blink, and like you're not really trying to do a lot of damage with Witchblade, but you're more trying to spread Mage Slayer. You are trying to be annoying. You're trying to hit annoying Dream Coils. Waning Rift like silences half their team. And you're just going to do a lot of damage and get out most of the times. And she is decent catch, especially if you commit to getting a Gleipnir relatively early. So I don't know if that's still viable. The phase shift thing felt really good. Just hitting everybody every time you pressed it. It felt really good. It's nerfs, but I think she's still good. But I don't know if she's good enough to be played outside of the mid lane, is basically my thing. Because we saw Yatoro played this one time, I think, and it looked kind of okay. She does a lot of damage. Her shard gives her magic damage on her auto attacks for some reason. It's really good. Now we have Sand King. Big question mark to me. We already made a video where we were like, huh, Sand King is a dead hero now. What the hell? Sand King, he's not a strength hero, right? Yeah, he is a universal hero. So his strength gain is now in the dumpster. He gets a little bit of base damage, so his laning is okay. But what is his niche now? Because in the offlane, he's just not tanky anymore. He can last it a little bit better. I don't know if this helps him dominate the lane. But I feel like Sand King is a 2, and that's it. He can only be played middle. Because in the offlane, I feel so sad when I'm Sand King. This doesn't feel good. And because of all of his previous nerfs, I feel like they did a lot of like Sandstorm nerfs and Epicenter and stuff. And stuff wasn't even functioning properly, if I remember correctly. I'm not happy as a Sand King. Shadow Fiend gets a buff on his Shadow Raises. Cool, we haven't been seeing the hero. Silencer, uh-oh. We see some intelligence steal buffs. Well, you can steal a total of 4 intelligence every time with Glaives of Wisdom. That is crazy. I still think this hero is not good. But maybe. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Like, he could do a lot of damage, I guess, which that doesn't seem super strong ever to have a right-clicking silencer, but maybe. Snapfire buffs, just quite a few, like Scatterblast, pretty good buff on Point Blank, and Fire Snap, Cookie, slightly better. So I like that. We haven't been seeing a lot of Snapfire, even though you could with all of the melee past 3s right now. She just isn't that good, and she was... At some point, she was so good that we would see her core. So we would see her 2 and 3 and 4, because her right-click build was so good, and now it's a level 25 talent. So basically, we don't want to play her core anymore. My rule of thumb is that a core can play for a 20 talent max. That's... You can't ever think that you'll get to 25. You can... 15 you can always get. 20, some games you won't get there, but then, you know, you probably got stomped. But you want your, like, power spike or your OP talent to be level 20 or lower. Because level 25 talents are just really hard to get to. And Snapfire gets to her right-click damage with, like, the rapid-fire stuff. I forget the name. On level 25. So as a core, she feels really bad. And then as a support, she probably suffered a little because she was being played support or core. So giving her a couple buffs onto her abilities is nice. This feels mostly a notice me, I am still a pretty good hero type of buffs. I'd be okay with seeing her in my pubs. Sven gets 1 base armor decrease, so that's annoying for his laning, and he felt really tanky, so that seems okay. Seems deserved, especially after Dream League, where Sven was pretty hype, or pretty high priority. We see Techie's nerfs in the laning stage. This is, or used to be, a big win my lane type of hero, where every 13 seconds the sticky bomb lands on your face, and you're like, ah, please don't. Now it will be every 16 seconds, and then 13. So it's pretty big nerf to Techies. He's still going to do it, but it's just less effective. Templar Assassin Meld buff. That's a nice to have for Templar Assassin. Helps her a little bit with solo kills, I guess. Helps with Roshan a bit. I guess it's nice. I don't know. Doesn't seem too impactful. Terrorblade. Let's talk about Terrorblade. So Terrorblade was played support because of his insane stats. He is high armor, decent bulk, and just outtrades you immensely together with reflection and meta. So they started playing him support. Now I want to pat myself on the back here. I noticed all of this already, and I put him in my thing to play him as a 3, because I felt like, wow, he's so good at laning. He has reflection, which is crazy. He has meta, which is crazy, and you can even make illusions later, and Sunder is kind of good as well. So I thought, if I just max out reflection, I can be a crazy good offlaner and be annoying. And then I wanted to go Aghanims, just blink Aghanims. It's kind of like a pseudo Ravage. So I think that isn't very good because you don't get a lot of stats with that, and then you blink in, you do your Ravage, and then what? You probably die. So you need a lot of items all of a sudden to really make him work. The other build that I was thinking about was like get a Mage Slayer, so you're also tanky towards magic damage, and then you get like an Echo or a BKB, and you just go in, or you can get a Blade Mail Heart, which would be okay on him, honestly, because high health, and then you can use Sunder if you're almost dead, and you still have the Blade Mail. It's pretty good, but I think you can already kind of notice that all of these builds sound kind of yucky. Like maybe you want a pipe instead of that Mage Slayer, but then you don't have a lot of mana. And you will kind of want an Echo Saber actually. So then you go Echo Saber with a cloak, or like he's just an awkward hero to build non-carry, I feel like. Or support apparently. But now they nerfed the reflection damage a bit. Still the same at level 4. So it's still the same in the game, but it's less good in the lane. And I think this is pretty big. The radius decrease, so it's pretty hard to hit both heroes in the lane. And later in the game, it doesn't get it back, so it keeps being hard to put multiple reflections on the board. So you can only really play reflection to be on 1 or 2 heroes. You don't really plan to hit more than them. And there's always a couple heroes that you really want to hit with it. You want to hit DK in Dragon Form. You want to hit Luna. You want to hit Venomancer. And basically anything with a passive that will own themselves. Anti-Mage in lane, for example. It's miserable to play Anti-Mage versus Terrorblade, which is why I wanted to play at 3, because Reflection on Anti-Mage wins the lane instant. Because he burns his own mana, that's why. Timbersaw gets small nerfs. I saw Timbersaw 5 yesterday. I think it was like Fart Studios versus Monkeys team. They played 5 Timber, and it looked kind of cool. Looked kind of good. It's like, this hero is crazy good right now with the... You just skip reactive armor. You just go Q and W and Kaya, and you just blow shit up. Actually crazy good. Tinker gets 2 base armor. Please don't ever buff Tinker. Stop, stop, stop. Defensive Matrix gets a cast range buff. I don't like that at all. Because look at Tinker, his 20 talent. Defensive Matrix grants 25% cooldown reduction. That shit is bonkers. It's crazy good. I don't like that. I don't like Tinker. So not too hype about that. I hope they stop buffing Tinker. I hope they remove it from the game. Tiny, tree grab, nerf. So that feels bad for every tiny position, really. I play him 3 a little bit. He feels too passive to ever be good in a pub. Because people are like, do something. And you're like, I'm tiny. I'm just farming and denying. Stop asking me to do stuff until I'm level 6 or 7. Or level 2, which is like your one spike. Where you have avalanche and tree grab. So you can like avalanche, hit them twice, throw tree. Which does like 200 to 300 damage. Which is pretty good. But then your support's never ready for it. And they're always like, eh. And then they're like, do it again. And you're like, no, I don't have any mana anymore. Stop. Stop talking to me. So Tiny 3 feels bad. And Tiny 2 is probably fine. But Tiny 4 really enjoyed this to harass and deny. I don't know. Tiny Core just feels eh. And Tiny Support feels pretty good. But this is a nerf to that specifically. Because you want to keep it level 1 as well. So it's, holy shit. That's a big nerf. It's like what? It's a 30% nerf, level 1? Holy shit. Like, you don't get tree grab after... You only get it after Avalanche and Toss are maxed out. So unless you're trying to, like, super tiny 1 type deal get tree grab 4 early. It's gonna hurt a long time. It's gonna hurt like the first 20 minutes of the game, this nerf. So it kind of sucks to be tiny. Troll Warlord, I don't know. I think this is a nerf. I don't know. I think the hero's kind of meh. Underlord. So this hero has been garbage in the offlane right now. And I think it's still going to be garbage in the offlane right now. So they swapped around the talents a bit, where you used to get Pit of Malice AoE at 15, but now you can get Pit of Malice slow. But you actually never want that. You just want the Firestorm cooldown, because Firestorm is literally your hero. Your whole hero is do Firestorm. It does big damage, percentage-based damage. Nobody wants to stand in that shit. It's crazy. So you never get the Pit of Malice talent anyways, unless somehow your Pit of Malice is amazing that game, which the cooldown is 15 seconds, so you're definitely not getting that off, and the duration is 12. Like, it's okay to really take areas, I guess, but then it's not big enough to really take areas, especially with now the map being bigger. Previously, I thought this hero would be crazy good with Bloodstone. If you go for like a Radiance or a Shivas with your Q, Shard, Bloodstone, you have ginormous circles, and you do a lot of damage and you're tanky, and you can heal. And that makes you tanky, blah, blah, blah. So I thought that would be good. I tried it a bunch. It was shit. It's so shit. It's not good. Like, healing off of your Q is pretty hard. Because people just kind of don't stand in it. So, meh. His Aghanims does feel good, so you can like global root somebody and then pop out on top of them. I've also theorized that getting maybe a what's the thing called? Meteor Hammer on Underlord can be good, because then you really shut down towers early, so play a little bit higher tempo. You get another circle to spam, which is always fun. And then you kind of force them into you, because you are meteor hammering their tower, so they kind of want to jump on you, but you have a Pit of Malice there, so like, what are they going to do? And even if they go on you, you are Underlord, you don't care. I think the big thing about Atrophy Aura is it only reduces right clicks, and the radius is 900, which isn't super amazing. But it does give you a little bit more right click, but I've theorized right clicking Underlord, and it's just not very good. Because you have to like get an echo, like, I don't know, how do you make a right clicking Underlord good? Because you just can't keep people near you. You have to like get a harpoon, and then you Pit of Malice, and you hit them with the echo so they stay in it, and then they finally are able to run out, and then you harpoon them back in, and you get like 2 or 3 Malice procs, which is pretty okay, but then you have to build a harpoon, which is kind of expensive, and maybe you still have to get the Rod of Atos, because then you Rod of Atos because they're too far away and you're a slug, literally, so you're too slow to get on somebody. So either you have to like get Phase Boots Windlays to get on top of them, or Blink or Atos, and then you run towards them and you Pit of Malice them, and then you hit them with the Echo Saber, and then you harpoon them back into the Pit of Malice. I mean, maybe the Atrophy Aura buff is enough for that, but it's only the creep, so this helps your laning even more, which is kind of crazy. It's a 50% increase on your level 1, and usually you only took level 1, sometimes level 2, because the increase in damage reduction is pretty big. And then you basically are a god in the lane, and then nothing else. Yeah, Pit of Malice just feels kind of like getting Aghanims for Pit of Malice on your portal. It's just difficult to get that Aghanims because it's so expensive, and then you get there and then you don't have other items. You don't have a Greaves or a Pipe or anything to really buff up your team. So then you're there, but then what? So I still like him versus like Monkey King, and like breaking trees globally is very fun. And sometimes the Aghanims is really good to help catch like a Tinker hero or other heroes that really want to get out. I like playing it against PL type heroes, but he doesn't feel like a just pick him and have fun type hero. It's more like a if you pick him, be ready to suffer type of hero. So I think you just have to wait it out with Underlord until he gets a build that's good or gets something that makes him better. I feel like if you put the slow on the Aghanims as well, and then give him a different 15 talent, that might start to make Aghanims pretty good, at least. Like, Aghanims will be a super feel-good item then, which I would actually really enjoy, because then he becomes an active hero as well. If you have a bigger Pit of Malice that is global and it slows, might actually pick that up, like, second item. Go, like, I don't know, Blade Mail Aghanims or something dumb, you know? Or, like, Pipe Aghanims or Greaves Aghanims. Something like that. I think is going to be super high tempo and fun for Underlord. Especially with the Roche Pits being annoying to get to. Urza gets a small, well, I guess it's a nerf in the lane the first time around, but then later he gets more slow resistance, so it's a nerf a little bit. Venomancers, Rejoice, Void Spirit, Dissemblate, a little bit more damage. He feels a little underwhelming, but a good Void Spirit is really scary, and Weaver gets a buff on his Geminate attack. I feel like it was already good. We've all seen the Game & Gladiator super late game with Doracio on Weaver. Like, I think it was already a good hero, and now it's slightly better. Maybe it's back on 4 position now, but it's definitely good position 1. And that is it for the gameplay update 7.35D. Rambled a little longer than I wanted, but I hope you got something from it. BKB's still good. Like, Maelstrom is in the dumpster, Manta's in the dumpster, and there's just these couple heroes that you kind of want to watch out for, but no big changes, really. Like, no heroes just completely deleted, I feel like. Like, I'm scrolling through it? Yeah, Pango, I guess. Pango. Oh, and Sand King again. Alright, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know down below what your read is on the meta. If I look at my heroes right now, I'm not really keen on changing anything. I still want to try Rubik with the Dagon and a Meteor Hammer, because he can Meteor Hammer from super far away, and he gets a spell amp on top of his own spell amp. I think it's crazy good. But I'm just going to keep playing the same heroes, trying to... Don't think I'll play Titanner, he's kind of boring. But, like, Radiance is still good. I think I'm going to throw away Pangolier again, I guess. Because I kind of wanted to try him in the offlane with Vlads and Mage Slayer, but now I think with the 1 less proc, it's kind of bad. Medusa in the offlane, I don't know, was kind of a meme. I might try it, but I don't know. No real big ideas from me this time around. So if you have anything cool, nice memes, or actually good stuff, let me know. And I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.